600 pages of dense 19th century Russian literature is a massive commitment. It demands weeks of your time and significant mental bandwidth to process. If you've read Crime and Punishment, you know Dostoevsky can write a tight, propulsive psychological thriller. The Idiot is a different experience, a sprawling, tangled web of high society drama that frequently detours into long philosophical monologues. The author called this his most personal work. He poured his own grief and core beliefs into a narrative that is famously messy and emotionally exhausting. The experiment at the center of the book is Prince Lev Myshkin. Dostoevsky wanted to see what would happen if he dropped a perfectly good, entirely naive man directly into the cynical, money-driven elite of St. Petersburg. The resulting tragedy shows that Myshkin's absolute purity doesn't heal the corrupt society around him. Instead, his inability to navigate human manipulation inadvertently destroys the very people he tries to save. Accessing the story requires navigating a significant logistical hurdle. With more than 10 different English translations in print, the sheer volume of choices creates enough friction to stall a reader before they reach the second act. Surviving this work requires strategy. You have to select a translation that aligns with your own personal tolerance for reading friction. Prince Myshkin operates with a radical, childlike sincerity. He assumes everyone acts in good faith and instantly forgives those who openly mock or deceive him. Because of this, he is entirely incapable of protecting anyone from actual harm. His profound innocence creates a dangerous blind spot. Lacking a grasp of human malice, he confuses the mere dismissal of wrongdoing with redemptive forgiveness. This plays out in his relationships as a fatal confusion between compassion and pity. Actionable compassion requires setting boundaries to help someone heal. Myshkin offers toxic pity, a boundless, uncritical sympathy that enables self-destructive behavior. This chart weighs character intent against actual impact. Prince Myshkin sits right here, purely intentioned but highly destructive. His refusal to judge allows manipulators to exploit him. His interventions trigger jealousy and ruin, pushing people toward total collapse. In standard 19th century novels, the pure-hearted hero reforms the wicked. Dostoevsky actively rejects that comforting formula. The Idiot forces you to look at the dark side of absolute goodness. It demonstrates that unguided innocence, lacking the wisdom to navigate darkness, creates its own liability. The structural chaos of the text reflects the conditions under which it was written. In 1867, Dostoevsky was living in Switzerland, enduring extreme mental anguish. He was fleeing creditors in Russia. His epileptic seizures were increasing. His infant daughter died. He was plunged into profound grief. On top of these external tragedies, he was battling a crippling gambling addiction. Losing everything at roulette tables forced him to write in frantic haste to secure publisher advances. That high-stress environment bled directly onto the page. The novel feels incredibly frantic because it was written frantically, with major plot lines evolving and changing direction as he drafted them. The core storyline frequently grinds to a halt, so Dostoevsky can explore sudden psychological theories or social critiques occupying his mind that week. In one detour, he pauses the drama to categorize ordinary people into two groups: blissfully self-satisfied dullards and anxiety-ridden creative thinkers, paralyzed by their urge to be original. Because of these detours, you don't get the tightly plotted momentum of his other major works. The narrative threads frequently fray and break. You have to accept the sprawling tangents and the structural messiness as a necessary tax. Paying that tax is the only way to access Dostoevsky's most raw and unfiltered psychological genius. This matrix maps the trade-off when choosing an English translation: literal authenticity against narrative fluidity. In the literal quadrant are Pevear, Volokhonsky, and Macduff. These prioritize exact structural fidelity to the Russian. They mimic Dostoevsky's erratic syntax, preserving his unusual word order, and the feverish, accelerating sentence structures he used to convey his characters' manic states. The cost is a heavily punctuated English that makes the dialogue feel unnaturally stiff. On the opposite end, fluid translations by Alan Myers or Constance Garnett are optimized for readability. These versions smooth out the quirky Russian phrasing. They use natural English idioms to maintain your momentum and help propel you through the intimidating page count. The trade-off here is a loss of atmosphere. You miss out on the raw, jagged edge that defines Dostoevsky's original voice. Selecting a translation that conflicts with your reading style leads directly to reader fatigue. Every reader must balance authenticity and readability against their personal tolerance for linguistic friction. This flowchart is a deployment strategy to match your specific reader profile with the correct entry point and translation. If you are short on time or attempting to read Russian literature for the very first time, follow this first branch. Start with the tight, propulsive pacing of Crime and Punishment. The structural messiness of The Idiot makes it a high-risk entry point for a beginner. If you are actively seeking to explore human nature and the real-world failure of pure ideals, follow the center path. For you, the Alan Myers translation is the target. It balances Dostoevsky's manic tone with enough momentum to keep you engaged through the long philosophical detours. Finally, if you are a veteran reader of classic literature willing to endure high friction for maximum authenticity, take the Completist route. Pick up the Pevear and Volokhonsky translation. You will experience the exact, unvarnished syntactic oddities and raw pacing that Dostoevsky originally put on the page. The Idiot functions as a demanding psychological mirror, reflecting the messy, high-friction reality of human nature through its own beautiful chaos.